Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation from ATA. I went through the brochure yesterday with all of you, and I saw a very distinguished group of people, and that's very promising for the future, as has been said in the introductory remarks. Just a few. I don't have such a brilliant speech prepared, but just a few comments or points I consider important, especially in regards to this ministerial summit and in regards to the situation we are just facing. It's as we heard yesterday night. It's very unique times we are living in. Now we are more than 1 year after the outbreak of the Ukraine crisis. We are somewhere in the middle between Wales Summit and Warsaw Summit, and we have some commitments which we presented in Wales, and this. Not only this ministerial, but all these meetings and all the situation around is about the evaluating of the implementation, where we are and where we are heading. Are we successful enough, or not? Now we are in the process of readiness action plan implementation, which is very promising. We made many steps forward, as is building of VJTF, as is decision to implement or to build NFIUs, NATO Force Integration Units, in some of the countries in the eastern flank. But the question is whether we did our best in the last months, and my answer is that we are trying hard, but there are still some problems, and there are positions of many countries, including the countries of the eastern flank of the NATO, which are quite strange sometimes, and including Slovakia, not very clear about the position of within NATO, about the decision making is sometimes quite strange. There are steps of political leaders which are not very clear what is their intention, as is involvement in the parades in Moscow last weekend, for example, of some political leaders from my country and from Czech Republic, for example, and these signs are not very good from our side, and that's something what the ministerial summits like this week are important. Need to face and need to answer. It was mentioned several times by my predecessors about the need for flexibility and adaptation. Now we are in a very, as I said, in a very unique situation, and we should maybe think again about possibilities of something like a strategic review, whether our institutions, our command structure, and everything what NATO is creating of, whether this is flexible enough, whether it is adaptive enough towards the current situation, and maybe the answer is not. So it means that we should think, and we should be quick. We cannot spend years by discussion about some changes, some restrictions, and adaptation. We have to be very quick in decision making and in the discussion, and recommendations of people like you are important, are very important as well. Still, the problem, as was also mentioned, the problem of money for many countries, including small countries like Slovakia, like Hungary, like Czech Republic, knowing the situation in the Central Europe more, is critical. We are, for example, in case of Slovakia, we are spending about 1%, and although we committed to spend more by 2020, to spend about 1.6% GDP for for our predictions of the budget are not so optimistic for the following years. So it means that it seems, and it's not only about budgets. It's about also other factors. We see it seems that politicians and leaders of the countries still don't take the situation seriously enough. It means they are still underestimating what the seriousness of the situation, and I can give many examples of how the political debate is going on, and about military pensions, for example. There are at least ideas about how to cut them, ideas how to maybe the restructure of defense spending, and all these things are confirming that one thing is commitment, and the one thing is if something is declared at the NATO summit. Another thing is implementation, and when it comes to the implementation, it's many times and quite often it's more problematic, and especially if governments are changing and those commitments are made by one government and someone else should implement it. So this is very important, and this should be repeating all the time by ministers, by different groups, by media, by NGOs, and so on and so forth. And third, we all know that we live in the times of new information warfare, in the hybrid war, and this is very visible in the eastern countries of NATO, including Slovakia, and we are still struggling when facing these problems. In recent time, in the last few weeks, there were many, maybe small events or occasions, but very important ones in countries like Slovakia, for example, which are showing us that there is not such a big or overwhelming support for transatlantic ideas, for transatlantic values, as were manifestations against NATO, as were gatherings during Foreign Minister Lavrov's visit to Bratislava, our capital, as was the showing of night walls, so-called night walls, in the countries of the motorcycle group in the countries of Central Europe, and the question is whether these anti-NATO, anti-Western, anti-American positions are strong enough, or are so strong, or whether we are just weak in showing our commitments, our values. And this is maybe something where NATO might help, and that's also the role, or it's the role of national capacities, but with the support of NATO PDD, for example. But there are other instruments, and this is very very crucial, because we don't know what the real situation and the public opinion in these countries. Is. So the propaganda is getting stronger and stronger, and if we will not face it today, it can have big impact, negative impact in the future. And still, it seems that we are a step behind Russia, and we are just reacting on the not only Russia, of course, other groups as well, and we are just reacting on what's going on. So we should reverse this trend, and we should be more proactive. But to find out the tools and to find out how to do that is not so easy, and also media and NGOs are struggling in these countries so far, and it's very visible, especially in the countries of Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, countries where of which positions were not so clear over the last year. And my last point, we should be very clear, and this ministerial is also important in this regard. We should be very clear towards our partners, and we should strengthen the NATO's Eastern policy, because I think that some decisions or some statements were not so clear or not clear enough towards these countries, as is including Montenegro's issue of accession to NATO, including debate about the future of Georgia towards NATO, and including Ukraine as well, although we all know that Ukraine is still in the crisis, and the question of future possible accession is quite far from us. And in doing this, not only in the countries of out of NATO, but including countries of NATO, as I said, we need to be clear with arguments. We need to use facts, and there are many important facts which are not known by the public, and we are failing, all of us, in informing of the general public on the what's going on in NATO. I can assure you that only a tiny portion of the people in the countries of Central Europe even know that there is some ministerial in Turkey these days, and what the crucial questions this ministerial is dealing with. So this is a bunch of problematic issues we need to face, and we all are here, not only here, but we all are gathering in different occasions to come up with some recommendations, to come up with answers. And it's important that all of us would need to somehow influence the decision making, the information campaign, and all these processes in their national countries. Thank you.